once you sort of do remove the lameness, the foot rot, what is the sort of follow-up thing, the preventative there so that you don't get it on farm again or
Yeah. Yeah.
manage your paddocks better in your sheep?
Yeah, that's right. So number one, if you've gone through a summer eradication program, obviously, I know guys that aren't game to, you know, we sell the stuff, but I'd rather people not have to use it. So I I know people who aren't game to not use the vaccine because they've seen that it makes a difference and they're not going to let it get away from them again. But at some point, you've got to, you know, get the benefit of the work you've done to reduce impact or reduce or eradicate the virulent strains. So if you don't vaccinate, then there's got to be fairly close surveillance of those groups of sheep. You've got to go and check them, catch, tip up, look for underrunning. If there's been a breakdown, then keep that mob within that farm isolated. So nothing through fences, that's internal biosecurity, and maybe you've got to make the call to cull that mob if it's a low value, if it's an older bunch of ewes or whatever. Anyway, you've got to keep surveilling within the farm. If you're buying in, and this is, I suppose, the challenging part, you get a lot of discussions, people saying, "Oh, it lives in the soil for a lot longer than 1 or 2 weeks because it just keeps turning up in our place." If you look at some states, that there's up to 50-60% of high rainfall states, there's 50 to 60% of flocks are actually carrying a benign to less virulent strain of foot rot. It doesn't express much because they're a crossbred flock. So foot rot, the bacteria is actually very common. If you're a merino breeder in the Dubbo, and you go and buy a crossbred ram from a higher rainfall area, crossbred sheep don't express foot rot, but they can carry it. So you might introduce a fairly virulent strain onto your farm through a crossbred ram. So the idea is to be sure of the source of your sheep, not check them out, get them to declare. If they're not game to declare that they're free of virulent foot rot, you don't want to touch it. I don't think people deliberately sell foot rotty sheep, but the fact is that sometimes people don't know because they can be silent carriers. So ideally, if you've got sheep coming onto your farm, if you've bought a mob of ewes out of WA because they're the right price, or they're in drought, etc., keep them isolated within your farm until you get a spread period happening, so a warm, wet time. And unfortunately, that might be 2 years in some places, but ideally that's the perfect scenario, and see how they go. And if they express lameness, then catch a few, have a look, get someone in to have a look for underrunning, and then you can make a call. Do I box them with the rest of them, or do I cut and run, or do I just manage that situation? I mean, where I am, I'm at Moama, so then, there's a lot of guys here that just buy merino ewes in to breed crossbred ewes every year, every third year or whatever, and it's that self-replacing thinking. It's easy to cut and run, I suppose, but it's also sometimes just, I'll put up with it and manage it and do the best I can with what I've got. So, yeah.
Was there any increase or decrease was it last year or the year before, where there was a record of sheep coming over from the west to the east coast?
It's very hard to. It's an interesting discussion. Certainly, I know of places that bought sheep from out over there. And again, I don't think there was any intention of doing it, but certainly when they landed and again, who knows whether they landed on a farm that was already infected and they became infected. But again, that's the situation that sheep movement means that foot rot moves. So I suppose the thing that was interesting 2 years ago for what I saw was northern Victoria got very wet over the summer, and places that hadn't seen foot rot for years suddenly had a lot of significant issues and didn't know where it had come from. And it's very hard to identify because, as I said, you can buy sheep and it could be those 3 years ago sheep that are actually causing the issue now. So it's tricky. But certainly they had outbreaks through a wet summer. And then, the last 2 years or whatever it is, it's been dry and haven't seen a thing. And it's one of those diseases. You've just got to be in. Surveillance is critical. Biosecurity is really important. Keeping on top of the game and getting help when something goes wrong.